Hey, how's everybody? I will just wait till I see some of your names on here. I just am very happy to be here tonight. This is our Friday night. This is Saturday night. Yes. And we're sharing that comfort for past, present, and future. So this is our fourth corner of the comfort room. Then the Yellow House Journey. I just have been in this journey. There's Jacqueline. How are you, Jacqueline? I got my scarf. I love my scarf. It's my prayer scarf. And we will be focused tonight. And I just want to pray out a door out of Song of Solomon. Hey, Lori. Hey, Michael. Love you guys. Our hope friends. Rebecca. Yes, orange is always in season. So, Jacqueline made this, everybody. If you don't know that, I don't think so. It doesn't have a tag on it. It says Jacqueline. Oh, there's Linda. There's Lori again. So, let's pray out of Song of Solomon 5. Oh, I'm just so doing good, man. It's just been a unique journey. Hilmar, good to see you from Iceland. Our family is here together. We will be regular. I had, as many of you know, the house is burned down. I own 2 houses in Reading. Or I should say the bank owned them. And I own these own these houses. And they both burned down in a car fire. And the issue was, we had some of the deepest, intimate on-ramps for me with the heart of God. Chrissy, good to see you. And just those got burned, the computers and then the backup. So I started fresh, but also just get my energy back. And it's just been something that I really counted on the organization of it. And this is a breakthrough day because it's like a flood. I found songs that take me there. I found about 10 songs. Happy Passover to you. Oh, this is awesome. Friday night Passover. So Easter coming. Sunday's coming. So, anyhow, the song in the background, song I didn't help somebody write that, doesn't have lyrics, but Elisa Yolanda, I'm not able to see that it'll roll up, so I just, Alice, I can see. Bless you, Alice. Good to see you, man. Glad that. It's going to be a great night tonight. So I'm going to share. I won't go too long tonight because I'm getting ready to go out of town and I'll be with Louis. Louis is a great history about Louis. Just James Gall calls him the greatest private prophet he knows. Just a major guy. So Calvin, you'd like to have this. But I'm not selling it. Jacqueline made it for me. And I got a hat that looks just like it. This is the color of hope. Melinda, I saw you sent me something. I have not been up on my texts and Lori or my emails. And Lori has been awesome to help me. And Linda, Lori primarily with the emails and Linda on communications, other things, and just really has made a difference. But so I just got, Melinda, that you shared a couple of emails or not. I'm just looking at emails weekly, and I'm trying to just balance from the Lord, I'm getting better, but I just have an energy issue, and then I got to pace it. That's all. So, but I will get back to you. Louise, hello, from Kentucky. So So turn to Song of Solomon 5, and I was looking for one thing in here. We're going to share tonight about the corner, about the Lord, the comfort for the past, present, and future. And this is one of our most important realities. So Song of Solomon 5:10, they asked him first, or they asked the Shulamite woman, they said in verse 9, how's your love better than any other? Most beautiful among women. So they're saying to this one, you're the most beautiful one we've ever seen, just in your desire for him, that when somebody has those dove's eyes, single eye focus, after him there's a freshness, there's a purity, there's a wonder, there's an aroma of him that comes from their lives. And they say, like hi Doreen, they say, well, you're most beautiful among women. And they said, we want to know, who is this beloved that you know, that we might know him also, that you can charge us to know him. So they've just got a whiff of who he is out of their lives, out of the Shulamite woman's life. And prophetically, that's what's going to really touch Janet, touch all of us. It's just this reality of who he is in our lives. And he's birthing adoration pillars. The solution now is not to fight fire with fire and to respond to the accusations of the day with just a sense of lostness, sense of no victory, sense of battling, again, fire with fire, but it's just going higher and then reaching down for people, or, reaching for people to bring them into that place of his presence. And you bring it wherever you go. And so let's just walk in the door of a new encounter pathway and just taste of it tonight here with Song of Solomon. So we're just going to do a little practicum right here at first and just adore him. So, Lord, we just come to you. And we say, like the daughters of Jerusalem to you, well, who is this one that you see? You must know. Just the joy in you, just the delight in you, the victory in Janet, joyous Janet, the marveling in Melinda that radiates from her, the delight in Doreen that comes forth from her, the loving, just compassionate part of you through Lori, the launching part of you through Linda. It's just who you are in their eyes. We long for just the jubilant wisdom through Jacqueline that I still signed the word for her from last month. I just spent time on it and you said there'd be a timing, and I'm ready. Lord, just to open up who you are in the Jesus movement with wisdom to Jacqueline and through Jacqueline. Lord, you will take her above the clouds, and each one of us in this moment would just go with you there. I just remember going to that cubbyhole. I was 12 years old, and I said, can you take me above the clouds? And I just feel like I was raptured right there above the clouds into a heavenly place where you radiated. And I'd always see the singing rose garden. I'd always see animals in a pasture that I had grown up with. My dog that I'd lost before that age of 12. And I saw some of the people I didn't know that were my relatives. And I tell my mom and dad, and they say, yeah. And I said, Bobby, keep going there. And then I'd smell these roses in that heavenly place, and I'd start to sing. Well, no, that's just not all in the scripture, but Lord, it was true. And then I'd see the fruit trees. I always see the fruit trees, and I bite of the apples if I needed love. And I bite of the bananas if I needed joy. Bite of the oranges if I needed hope. There was always this dog there and this little boy, and they'd lead me up a pathway. It was a yellow brick pathway. Some of those have seen things, and they end up in movies. They meant friendship. It took me up to a yellow house. And I knew you, but I didn't know you like this. I knew you as the God of the fifth scene that was victorious above all, and the challenges of the earth were just a drop in the bucket to the greatness of you. You said either magnify the dot or magnify the greatness of me, the dot of evil that's obliterated, and a sky filled with your landscape, your beauty as high as the sky. That microcosm of what's focused on in this life by so many under the clouds, that dot of evil and challenge. And you say, focus on me, the God of the fifth scene, that higher above the four seasons of challenge that would come in my life. But then you showed me something unique as I just go into that heavenly place, and it'd be with the yellow brick road. It'd be that place of friendship. I'd feel the warmth. I'd feel the delight. I'd come around that corner and meet this little boy and this dog, and they're just so precious. And they were telling me about this yellow house, and they were telling me about it was a place where you'd feel at home, a place where you'd become all you were called to become, a place that you'd see someone and you get to know his heart's desire, and it was you. A place where there'd be a place above love and forgiveness. There'd be appreciation. That when I appreciated all, that I would never have to forgive because I wouldn't, or judge because I wouldn't be given to that. That you're the judge. I was just to appreciate. Oh, no man but to love him. With that appreciative love. Put value on it. And then I'd see not the God of the fifth scene, but on a porch swing, I'd see the God of blue jeans. I'd see the God that had become a human, that could identify and comfort me, and that I could comfort. Just that unique friendship when we swing on that porch swing. When you take me through just your journey and you tell me more about you, and I just felt that warmth and that friendship. More than that, I'd just be so undone. Feel so honored for the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords to look at me with this Song of Solomon 5 reality, that verse 10, that you're chief among 10,000, that you're beyond what I had ever seen. That I had those eyes that were loved like dove eyes. They were singularly focused on me. I'd never had anybody's attention so given to me. Just undid me. Someone like you. Then I saw your cheeks that were exquisite. They're filled with delight. They're filled with the deep and true emotions. Your lips, myrrh and scarlet, they're just identifying love and suffering love that you always spoke. With the identifying, suffering love that you're tangible, that you didn't have misery, but you were comforting in our past, present, and future, that you would hold our hearts and you'd oil them and comfort us. I saw the way you spoke tenderly and kindly, and I thought you were the God that rebukes alone. I was so astounded by that comfort that's not only just that healing balm to lean on your chest like Psalms 131. But my eyes are not haughty, nor am I proud, nor do I involve myself in matters too great for me, but I lay my head on your chest like a little baby, a weaned child. And I just delight in you and receive my inheritance. Well, you just give me that little red wagon, and I walk over the hill, and it's filled with 27 hopes in this age. It's filled with riches, cities and nations, my inheritance. Filled with the family beyond my belief. You stand up with those legs that are golden, like world of just strength, steady, steadfast. Oh, I just love seeing your eyes. I love seeing your cheeks. I love seeing your smile on your lips. I love seeing your neck, your arms. It's all described here. Your legs. You're altogether lovely, and it describes you here, and I'm just stung right now. But just seeing you as a comforter on that porch swing, and that you weren't only the God of the fish scene, greater than all, but the God of blue jeans, just comforting. And I remember when you got down on your knees and you started to oil my feet. There were crackles in my feet. And you were talking about going into this yellow house, place of wholeness. Said anybody goes through this yellow house, and it's the journey of every one of our lives, that every one of our lives, the house of our pilgrimage, there's these 12 rooms, these 12 forgotten faces of you. And they're to be discovered in this hour, the hour of reformation, the hour of restoration. Although many adversaries stand at the door and try to challenge the 1 Corinthians 16:7, they're nothing. The evil, the demoniac, the bad news, the social media that'll be redeemed, it's just all nothing compared to one word from your lips. You oiled my feet with such comfort. You came for the fishers of my heart, and you oiled my heart. You said, son, you've taken some burdens on that you didn't need to take, and I took rejections on, I took pains on, and I'd allow myself to meet Mr. Squash Bucket, just squash me and hit me in the chest with the steel like a laundry basket, but just it was this pile driver that just would want me to feel a rejection over and over, and I'd just try and identify with the sin or others' feelings as I led at places there'd be people hurt, and I hated it. And I just feel that negation, the Leviathan in Job, that Job spoke of, the creature of the Nile that just takes and twists like an alligator. It is an alligator. Just bites onto you and your words and your life and changes the whole narrative and spins it into a death spiral, and it's just not as powerful as your angelic helpers. The tools that you give us of the memorial stones of the past, the Psalms 92, 1 and 2 of the presence, where you show us your eyes of love. We proclaim your passion of pursuing love in the morning and your faithfulness to the unending, undying, everlasting love at night. We might not see it all every day, but we don't go to bed distant. We just feel that warmth and know you'll unfold that you loved us more today. That never is a day wasted. It's redeemed. We can go back in time and see you redeem it. We can go forward in time. God, there's so many tools that you want us to discover. So there we go in this place of just seeing you. And as you oiled my heart for that rejection, you said, the God of peace. Well, and I saw your face in peace. And those thoughts they're tormenting. I know when I came to know you and to spend time with you in the prayer room, there was a woman that would come in and And she was just being so tormented that she'd get hot, perspire, and I just asked you with all my heart, could you give her the peace that passes understanding? Could she be free from a negative thought once, and then could she be like a baby that just falls asleep in your arms? God, I saw it. So where she came in and she lifted your arms a week or two after that. And I saw something with her eyes closed. I said, she's going somewhere. She's going through the heavens. She's going into that John 3:12 place. I'm in heaven, but I'm on the earth. You said, Jesus. She's going through that door. John 10:9. Jesus, you the door into that heavenly place. She's going to the Hebrews 12:23 place, that ascended place. We come to the Grout Mountain, where the host of witnesses is, where the angelic host is, where you are. The sapphires and the gems and the beauty of you. Oh, and she started to drop her arms and hold herself in her chest and just bend over, and she just closed her eyes and went to sleep. Tipped over on the chairs by her friend helped her just lay down, and I just was so amazed. She went from the torment room to the celebration of you room to the place where she ate the raisin cakes in Song of Solomon 1, just that place of eating the apples of your love, raisin cakes of your love. And she said, hold me. Put your left hand behind my head. I'm about to pass out with your love, his love. God, I ask for everyone tonight that there just be an encounter with you, that we would, from afar, what the world needs now is to see you. Everything changes. Like Job said in Job 42:5, I don't hear of you with the hearing of the ear. I see you with the seeing of the eyes. I put my face in the dust. He had been complaining about you. He had been complaining about his journey in his life. And Job 38-42, you show up and you show him how wondrous you are. Said, now, Job, were you there when the mountain goat gave birth? When the dew came on the hills in the morning? And he just saw the wonder of you. God, we see the wonder of you as we enter into this place, that you, the comforting God, show us your eyes of comfort, of kindness, of gentleness. Show us your eyes of victory. The God who triumphs in all victory. Oh, and that none of us will despair or be disappointed that put our hope in you. All of us will put behind us malice and slander and any maliciousness. It just doesn't have to be there, because we've seen you and seen your eyes. Someone can slap us on one cheek and we respond with a smile and love on the other, because they're just soaked and saturated in your love. So you comfort us and you oil our hearts just as we would go farther into this yellow house together and enter into the hope room, this first part of April. Even on this Passover time, you want us to pass over into a new place, into a resurrection place, and comfort us in one of the places that's so profound and prophetic for where we're at. Comforting us in our past, our present, and our future, and filling out those fissures that are just little cracks in the sidewalk, that pressures of life come and try to make them fractures where we're split in two. And we go from shook to hurt to injured in our faith and our hearts. And God, that's not going to happen by your grace. I've thought I'd been injured and fractured in places. And you said, well, that fissure got challenged, but it held. And now I healed out. So God, just a stunning prophetic reality. Open up your face as God of all comfort, past, present, future. Pour that oil on our hearts. Good shepherd and lover of our souls. In Jesus' name, amen. Love you guys very much. Exodus 15, I share as I go through this yellow house journey. And I'm going to put that up. My notes where I wrote them, but let me find them. I'm sorry. I just kind of stung and kept, in this place. I'm just moved. I'm really moved. I just want to be real, always want to be real honest, forthright with you guys. And we all have challenges, and there's always been a place where the victory and the hope is greater. But it doesn't mean I don't get shook and I don't get knocked off balance. But when my health really got challenged, they found out that I not only, and this will be comforting about the past, present, and future, be one of the most important things that I've ever understood in the place of really now for us as a people and across the earth, and I'll tell you how and why. But there was a history I had developed in the Lord, and focus. You could call it a discipline, but it just was where I always wanted to be, was with Him and adoring Him. And Bob Jones had shared with me some private things, and one thing he said was, this is about 5-6 years ago, he said, you're about to get wounded at your core. I actually had a dream, and it was about, you're about to be wounded at your core. Be gentle with yourself, be gentle with others. And he's going to take you to the yellow house, and it'll be play therapy, and it'll be an upgrade. But some will see it as, you really blew it, and, and so, and he said, you won't be a lone hurt guy. You'll be a patriarch, a king. And he said, you picked up burdens you were never called to pick up, and that's made you run ahead of grace and his self-strength. And that's one of the challenging demons, and I'll identify it, that really in this hour, there's a couple of them that are really key, that we know what's happening so we don't see ourselves, a familiar spirit, think that's who we are. So, hey, Pooch, hey, I am sorry, Sebastian just got back. He's been gone for a few hours. The Wonder Dog, come here, buddy. Come here. Yes, he got a good bath. Yes, my kisses. I hope that don't bother you guys. Oh, my buddy. Yeah, give me one more hug. Okay, yeah, you want to go see, buddy. So, I am going to do a series with the Wonder Dog, and it's going to be fun. So, Declan, yes, that dog is such joy and gift. But we've been having conversation. He speaks in tongues like I do. Don't let that bother you if you have spiritual gifts on an animal. Who knows, So, but he's just a wonder. So I will, just been videoing, and I love that Sebastian, Linda. Yeah, he's got some personality. I can tell you some awesome things that happen that are fun, So, but he just got a bath and got his hair done. So, we're preparing him for Hollywood to go in there as a sanctified Wonder Dog. And also, he's got appointments with the Pope and some others to just challenge them. He speaks 9 languages, but he, the other night he came up in the my room and said, "Hey, you've been tardy on the food. It happens again. I'm out of here." And he had his little doggy suitcase. I said, "I got enough for a bus ticket. I stole it out of your top drawer. So hopefully you guys don't know where I live. My top drawer is where the money is." And so when he said, "Hey, I need an upgrade in the food," he said, "the salmon food." I said, "No, I'm not a bird." He said, "I need some meat in there, liver. I want liver in there, and some T-bone and some filet mignon." And then he wanted, Chablis 1812, and Chablis didn't make it in 1812, but that's it. So it's fun. Sharon, good to see you. New Zealand's represented now. So tonight we are sharing about comfort for the past, present, future, and we're turning to Exodus 15. And I was sharing, just as a lead up to this, we adored for a while, if any of you want to go back and listen. And, every time it'll be a corporate prophetic word, and then there'll be individual prophetic words. And I was just being real honest with you guys about 6 years ago or 5 years ago. And I've alluded to this, and I don't need to talk about it, but it's a reference point, because there was just a real growth in what I was doing and reaching out with people. And I always, never got the willies out of speaking before, good sized groups or non-leaders, and that had been something I'd done. I was not impressed by church leaders. I was by wrestlers. So I'd shake and get their autograph, not pro wrestlers, but that's wrestlers. So, but I loved, spiritual leaders, but I just knew when I was 12 that I was brought up communism, and I had communists, and so I started having dreams. And when I was 12, I just got the way I understood it, and I would be like a Patch Adams and have healing centers that were filled with hope. So Patch Adams is, of course, somebody saw after that, and I said, "That's it. That's a hope healing center." I mean, the essence of it, with joy and celebration and the distinctives, the place is filled with this presence of hope, and it would radiate this color from those places. But then when I got saved, I was headed to a medical school. I would have been a lousy doctor. I wouldn't have done well there, but I just felt like I needed more and tools, and I had led a lot of organizations and saw the leadership model, saw how we built the Human Development Center, human beings, and I just thought I need greater understanding. So I got invited to a leadership conference, and I didn't know it was Christian. And so I go, and speaker gets up, and there's like 1,500 leaders from around the country, leaders of Campus Crusade for Christ groups. And so I get up while the speaker's sharing what they're going to do and learn for their groups. And I said to the speaker, I said, I don't agree with your premise. And so now it's 1,500 people looking at me. Now, I came from a world where, my mom and dad were known in the city. They were communicators. And so, so I felt like, if you had something to say, and I wasn't being obnoxious, but at the same time, it was inappropriate. But they looked at me like, where did this guy come from? And I brought this bodybuilder named Bernie with me, and he didn't want anything. I'd come to learn about leadership, but also to meet girls. And so anyhow, short of it is, the conference, I had 1,500 on one. Just different ones meeting with me, not all 1,500, and we just share about life. And I've been brought up a Catholic boy, and I just, didn't understand even Easter, the idea of, I really believed in the Son of God dying and the resurrection, but I was afraid of it. I just thought, what the nuns told us and others that he could do to us, and I didn't. It's a foolishness of God when you see a man that dies on a tree to them, and the Father from heaven doing that. And then when it profoundly opened up, and it was at this time, a man just shared with me, and it was right around actually Christmas time, but Easter was also another encounter time. But just that he showed me the one who loved me enough to die for me. And my understanding in the Chicago hotel room after these people had really shared with me, and there were a couple that really broke through. There was an Englishman that I just never smelled anything like that, his aroma. And I saw real love. And I can't remember what he said. I just know the presence came. And I went to my hotel room and I said, if you are my Father in heaven, is there sharing here? I said, then I'm not leaving till I know you. And I said, but first I have questions for you. And next day I didn't realize my pain about the past. And I had been someone that replaced the past with just more pressing into the future. I just did it wrong harder, and wasn't going to let that get me down, But there was just places that needed a lot of oil. And, that's not what I'm sharing on tonight. But this will relate to what I'm going to share out of Exodus 15, that I didn't realize who God was as a God of comfort. I never understood that. And at that point, when I was 23, he spoke to me something that he just spoke to me a year or two ago. And it was about the first time I'd run into the yellow house, which was I started being presented by the Lord, from the Lord in the year 2000 about the yellow house, and just about how the reformers would come forth. And there was a dream I had about 2020. And that's when the spaceship or the heavenly citizens would land on the earth. And you got to go back to see my string of pearls to say, how did we get there? And sometime I'll do history of this Hope Reformation. But, year 2000, he showed me just a spaceship landing on the earth with a lot of people that I've come to know. Now that it's 2020. And he said it was the year 2020, and the lid opened up, and there was apocalyptic devastation, which that was the year of Y2K 2000. And so I had expected devastation. Bought a farm, and it was that night, and nothing had happened. We went to sleep, and I had this dream about what's happened now with Y2K, and it was 2020. This spaceship hatch door open, and I got to time travel and see apocalyptic devastation. So I thought, no, 2020, it's going to happen. But then the hatch closes and it opens up again. And it's beautiful, radiant, redeemed cities. I just found a book that I talked to George Bush, or not senior, junior, about just the redeemed cities. But anyhow, short of it is, I saw the most beautiful cities, and everywhere was God. And I turned to the Lord and I said, which was it? Is it? And he said, you choose. And so there's a real place where we choose the narrative. We can see how narratives are being built up, that if you got just a sound foundation or measure of it, or maybe not have a whole lot to see that. George Orwell said, you'll see with your eyes and hear with your ears. And they'll tell you didn't see it, and this is what you really saw. And it's just when good becomes evil, evil becomes good. Now, there are reference points, and that's what we're moving into. And there's those that are screaming out at their core for it, and this is the best time to be alive. But he told me, you choose whether radiant, redeemed cities or apocalyptic devastation. And it really prepared me. From that point on, I knew that the stakes were higher, and the ability to be prepared to see with eyes of hope, which was missing. Face of God had been buried for 6,000 years, Bob Jones told me, and I went on a search, and there was a lot that the Lord just showed me about these forgotten faces of him, and there would be a progressive revelation of him. And God of hope would bring us into a place to have comfort for past, present, and future. And he just shared with me in that time, 2000, but then when I met the Lord in that Chicago hotel room, Psalms 92, to proclaim his love in the morning, and then 1 and 2, and his faithfulness to that love at night, or your soul will get distance, and you'll start to define your own circumstances versus ask God. And you always ask God a hopeful question. Well, Lord, with the election, other things now, what are you going to do that's even better? Because you turn all the good to those who love you. So it's not who's right or wrong. That's never been the Lord. It's been, how do we love more and learn more? And there's always qualifiers. So in that Chicago hotel room, he dealt with my past because I had moved out at 15 years old, and it was just tough. All of us have had tough challenges, and a lot of things happened. And I didn't really think at 23 that it affected me like that, because I had a lot of victories, a lot of joy, a lot of great friends, a lot, I was leading a lot and had great grades. And so I was able to get into a medical school, and so there was a lot of other things going on, but there were, there were minor victories. They look big, but once I get the award or the deal for an outstanding athlete or scholastic, I don't want to, in my little world, it seemed like a big deal, but then it never really stuck. And I said, this is just not about my human development. I just want to know you as a father in that Chicago hotel room. And I also want to know what's on your heart. And because somehow I realized he was a God with feelings, and that I could have maybe not been so sensitive to his heart. And so I said, but please tell me what happened in the past. And I said, where were you when my mom got bedridden? Where were you when different things happened? My dad, just tragedies. And he showed me after 2 days, I did this for 2 days. We're moving into comfort first, past, present, and future out of Exodus 15, out of this yellow house corner, the last corner of the comfort room, comforting us for past, present, and future. And after 2 days of spewing out, where were you? And I would fall asleep a little or go eat a little, but not much. I was walking in the snow. I was in Chicago Marriott downtown, and the snow never looked like it did, but I was being honest about my pain. But then I was honest and sat down on the end of the bed, and I said, I thought I was a big, multidimensional, gifted man. And I said, I didn't think I was everything, but I thought I could do well in America in life, and with all the advantages. And I said, but I couldn't. I said, I thought I was a man that was able to handle my life and issues. And I said, I'm a simple child that needs help. And I could see how I had not perceived my life rightly, or the narrative of my life. And I needed him to bring me above the clouds. And it probably was 2 minutes, but it seemed like days. 1,000 years is like a day, where he took me through the events I asked him about, probably 1,000 more, and showed me where he was at. And it was sealed in my thinking. So I just, after that, he had said, where was I at? After he showed me his love and his pursuit of me that I missed. The narrative was wrong. And the way I perceived my life, he said, where were you? I tried to protect you under my umbrella of love. I actually did. And I never thanked him, and I didn't see it. And he said, where were you? I just tried to protect you under my umbrella of love. guide you, and you've, run out from under it. And I just responded and I said, when you get me, you'll get all of me. And I'll stay under that umbrella of love. And I said, I beg my life, I give it to you, And I didn't do that easily, but I was instantly changed and went back to my wrestling buddies, and they just saw something different in my eyes. And they just said, I've just met the one that loved me, that died for me. And, what a wonderful life I've had. I said more than that. We'd spend hours talking. And so the Lord took me in this visitation of the Yellow House. I'm writing a book about it, and it's on our webpage, bobhartley.net, I believe. And it's just the comfort room. He spoke to me. He said, will you allow me to comfort you? He said, the earth is void of my mercy. And it was like we didn't understand it completely. So it's not that we didn't have a measure, we just didn't have a fullness or a complete definition that opened us into the right door to see his face, because it was just one of those things that you'd have a nervous breakdown I was having it, trying to grip his love and forgiveness for me, or his mercy for me, and his comfort, which is an expression of that. So the comfort in this fourth corner, which was first corner, he comforted me in my pain. I would encourage you to go back and listen. The second corner, he gave me comfort for his pain. Because I realized at one point in my life, it's Psalms 55, it says, against you, and Psalms 53, against you and you only do I sin. And so I hadn't sinned against people or gotten upset with people or even life. Ultimately, it was him. And I just had missed a good father that's like, gosh, I'm on your side, and really caused pain. And I saw the tender God. I saw I can encourage the heart of God. And then I found scripture. There's 3 times that I can encourage. And I thought, wow, I want every day to bless. I want your heart to be lifted up. I want you to be encouraged. I don't want nothing to steal my worship from you, to my love. And so the comfort from the past, present, future. So he, just the third corner of comforting was comfort he brought in my heart. And there was a grief at first. He grieved over my pain. And it was like that Goodwill Hunting where he said, it's not your fault. I mean, I cried at a few of those because they related, some things were mine, but the point was, he said, and loved me, but he said, now it's your choice, So, but the comfort, he felt more pain for me than I did. It was true pain. It wasn't pity, or it wasn't. And I was to feel that for myself. And that was where when it says love yourself, well, that was part of it I didn't understand. That love myself, that pain was part of me. It was be handed to him, but it was authentic about who I was as a human being. And then the pain for him, what I caused him, was real, that against him and him only. And that just, it changed me towards sin, that it was love. I just never wanted to hurt him. And that guided me a lot. But then the third corner was pain over what I'd caused to others. And it was by omission or commission. And, he took me to the attunement room before that, just say, there's people groups that are wanting to be attuned to. And so I understood that would happen as we came into 2020. There was an attuning for the body of Christ, and that there was a reacting that had been done. And, when people are shouting out in pain, whether they're part of a minority or part of another group, it just, and they're pointing the finger. And, I live my life in the inner city with my dad, inner city, and some of the ones that accuse, I don't look at them, but I just can hear in the air. It's not that authentic. If you've lived in the inner city and you've been with different people, groups that, there was a lot of love, but, there also is, strengths with you don't stereotype people groups, but there's strengths about a people group, and then there can be weaknesses that seem to be common to all, but not always. But it's just helpful to have other, every tribe, nation, kindred, tongue, where you can see their strengths and their beauty. The reaction or resentment, politics or life view is really sour and it's bitter, and it's not something I want to respond to, but I want to see. I want to go beyond that and see the reality of. I want God's understanding about somebody's pain. I don't want their understanding when they're hurt and they're not nice to me or somebody, and I didn't cause that. But if I can step back and just own, because I love them, and if I can see that I have any fault, then, what I have done since this about the attuning or being able to comfort others in this time is I have some friends that are Black, and, I just have been around many for a long time that are different colors than me, and I've lived in a lot of different nations or lived in some. And so, but I needed to update my perspective, and I just said, how do you feel? What is authentic about what you can relate to, and what isn't? And they weren't all believers, and that's been an interesting discussion, because if I'm sensitive and understanding and I don't react, if people get, overreactive, you'll learn a lot. You'll learn a lot, and I will, and I want to attune, and I ask Asian friends, and I ask Japanese American friends, and I've just spent about 4 hours with a Black friend that was an NFL football player on Friday, and I just asked him about his past, and his name's Bobby Bell, and his dad was Bobby Bell, the All-Pro defensive end, all Hall of Fame, and then I talked to Bobby Bell Sr. and his friends, and his parents, and so definitely unique challenges, but just some balanced understandings, but just I wanted him to be him and share, so so that is really just, let's learn these things in the heart, and love is going to abound, and it covers. And so, and this is a perfect time to not react with criticism and judgment to criticism and judgment. We owe no man or woman but to love them. And that power is a sweet stick, which is the greatest tool I've been given. And that is original design, seeing others' original designs. So this is the hour. And so we give comfort to people's pain, and whether they would perceive where it's coming from or how much you're responsible, we still identify with pain. My dad was superb at that, but he wouldn't take it on him. I tried to blame him as a parent one time. That didn't work. We just listened for quite a while, and he had given everything, for me. And I said, Bobby, he didn't even say, I'm not perfect, son, all that. He said, Bobby, everybody's had a hard time in life. He said, let's move on. And it was, very well heard, but he never pulled that card, So I'm speaking to people tonight that I prophetically understand. That just means I've asked the heart of God, and he's confirmed. And sometimes I will share and it will be a linear route, or it'll be what Lauren Cunningham said to me. He said, the best way people learn, whether they realize it or not, is a circle within a circle. So he'll start a story, then a second, but he knows, and Lauren's brilliant, that he's going to tie them together. Bob Jones would do this. And you'd have to go away from that time and find the puzzle pieces and how they fit. And so it led you to a search. And Jesus was very, very much like that also. So the point is, just in moving into this fourth corner for comfort for the past, present, and future, there are people here that are going to be great comforters. And they're going to be able to have the sweet stick wherever they go. And just by their very smile, like David Allshu, a friend of mine, had real comfort. You couldn't sit in David's presence and not feel healing for your wounds. And it was the presence of Jesus. And I asked a friend who was doing drugs, and David A. would come down to this park. There was a bunch of hippies back then. And this guy was on drugs and hippie. And I said, how did you get saved? Years after that, I knew him. And he said, David A. smiled at me. And I just had to find out where it came from. I had a friend, Hallelujah Bob, that would go down there. And I had a friend, that just saw him and says, he glows. So the presence carriers will be released. And the power of the presence will be like the Daniel 11:32 and 12:3. They shine like the stars. And so we win with victory in our presence in the sweet stick. And let's look at Exodus 15, and I'll just give you this picture. Exodus 15, the Lord takes me into this fourth corner of comfort for the past, present, and future. Because people say, just leave your past and, press on for the higher prize of Christ Jesus. And there might be 30 verses about one subject, how you deal with the past. But every part of our lives is a love song unto him. And every part of it is this journey called the house of our pilgrimage. And I believe this yellow house represents the stages of that journey. It's like the Song of Solomon. It tells us that we go from, and Jacqueline, it's Daniel 11:32, and 12:3, but you might have looked it up. Thanks. So every part of our journey is a redemptive love song. And when we ascend and we step into, in this season, sweet prayer, which is confident, comforted, hope-filled prayer that comes from above. We move from the place of the Old Testament where it was a high priest and you feared to say the name of God. They couldn't look at the God of the blue jeans. That was human once. To New Testament, so Jesus, you come to me. Then he changes what he says in John 16. 14 through 16, we knows about the Holy Spirit, but he shifts to the mansions, and then he speaks about, now you can go to the Father directly yourself. I'm your brother. And what he was saying was, now you go to the Father and you're not going to pray with him. You're going to pray as a heavenly son or daughter with all the authority, and you'll decree. Or you're not going to pray to him, you'll pray with him, you'll decree. And there's a place of praying, not from the field where we're in a battle, on the field, on the earth. I had a stream about the football team and how we're not to be on the battle, but in the skybox and seeing it from a higher view. And then we went to even a higher place. But we pray from this heavenly place that sees victory and sees hope. And sees as a heavenly citizen that sees original design. And then you decree what God is saying about a city, a nation, and it bears much fruit because we are lions first in our journey with him. and lions roar across the earth, in the earth and across the earth, and it reverberates. And so that's what we do. But then we become the Isaiah 62, the royal ones that decree, and we stand in the gap and we speak, and it creates. And that is where our authority is, and we transition to the third season or era of prayer. And that's where we co-create with God. And it is by speaking original design. You can see when ones have touched it across the ages, like Martin Luther King. I met Rosie Greer, but others that, and Jesse Jackson that watched him, especially Rosie told me about, it might be before some of your times, but he was Bobby Kennedy's, he was there right when Jack Ruby shot him, assassinated him. And so he was his bodyguard. And, Rosie and I had unbelievable times together. They just talked about how he'd be with Dr. King, and it was a bodyguard for Dr. King, and how in Rosie's 80, in his 80s, he was a Los Angeles Rams and movie star and quilted. But he shared how, when he said, I had a dream, they knew that he had a visit where, all men, black and white, it's poetic language, but it's not that long. It's not that unique of words, but he just saw it from a heavenly place. We know that he made mistakes in his own life, but that doesn't disqualify his heart or his journey as he grew. But so we are moving to a heavenly place to see our past, our present, and our future. And then what has happened in this hour is there's been a couple of adversaries that have been loosed. And there always is when there's movement forward in God. So the Lord took me into comforting me about my past, present, future now. And then I saw the body of Christ, and I saw the world. And there is very much on a lot of levels on each of these corners. And I've shared about it in a number of different ways, but I'm going to share with you two things. And I know this is taking a while, but I'm going to share with you the past, present, future here in a way that you're to view your life. And it's not a question mark, and I'm asking to make an agreement with this tonight. So Exodus 15, they're moving in from the past into the present. And so their past as children of Israel, in Exodus 2 and Exodus 6, their cries came up before the Lord because their cries were, for deliverance. They were miserable, and so God heard their cries, and he started setting in motion deliverance, obviously, more to it. But they end up with the plagues, which is a profound understanding about plagues, the Black Plague, and even about, this COVID plague. And so, but they're delivered, and then we know that the Red Sea comes upon, the armies of Pharaoh, and their horse and rider are thrown into the sea. So they're proclaiming the Song of Moses, which is proclaimed 2 times in last book, Revelations, and here it is. And there's a reason why this particular song is proclaimed twice. But it's identifying your past, and it's saying, see the memorial stones. Because if you don't, then in the present, you won't see his love a lot of times, because there's influences on the earth that will come after you. And if you're just not reverent towards the Lord enough, and you don't maintain that prisoner of hope attitude, that I can't ask any questions outside of hope or allow my mind to fix on anything but hope. So back in 2000, the Lord tells me, and I'm not this clear on a lot of things, but I have a number of people that I shared it with and through the years about the next 5 presidents. And then he spoke in about 2016, got a Trump card, and then he said about 220, John. And I had no idea who John was. I didn't have any idea when President Trump was in office. And I wasn't thinking a ton about 2020 just because of my own life situation. But I was wanting the Lord to contextualize, because of my own past, I was dealing with how were you there and care, because they go from this horse and rider was thrown in the sea, you've delivered us, this is a huge memorial stone, to where they're thirsty for 3 days. And if you've been thirsty for 3 days, I wrestled and we couldn't drink for a while, but then I was in the hospital in New Zealand. I didn't get water for quite a while. And I just saw my dad as he died, that thirst is horrible. The level I experienced, they were 3 days without water. And then they come up and they say, somebody says, water over the hill, and they run, and this water is bitter. Now it's inland water. So it's pretty clear the waters of Mira, were bitter, but some say, and scientists say, that it was magnesium and one other thing, and it was cleansing because it came out of this plagued area, and there was a lot of impurities in the way people lived, and it was cleansing, and they would need that. But I don't know, they're pretty dry, dehydrated already, and they're, the cleansing, the wisdom of God was he knew what he was going to do to help them, and he shares with Moses, Exodus 15, 23 through 26, he says, they're starting to murmur, and that was not the right approach. And I'll share with you what would have been. And I know we all have those times where we're just murmuring, and murmuring is walking in the other room, just murmur. And I found myself, I'd never done this in my life over the last 6 years, just murmuring, just talking to myself, how challenging it was. And I knew that I had crossed the line. So if the horse and rider was thrown in the sea, they start to murmur. And Moses was humble and says, he's confident in the long-term hope or promise into the promised land. And Moses, I believe, is aware enough to know that the 11-day highway that goes right to Jerusalem is not the way, because these Philistines, these giants. And so they're not wandering in the wilderness, they're strategically moved so these enemies won't get to them, and they don't become fodder for the enemy before it's time. And they're preparing their strength, and they get into the land. And there's some ways they could have shortcut it, obviously, but it's a moment. They were there. So in the present, when the bitter waters become sweet, then they go from bitter, the sourness towards life and sourness towards Moses. They find an object, always person. And that obviously happened in the last season. I experienced it kind of prior to just the sourness. I didn't get sour at a person as much. I got sour because it just, life had wounded me. And I had been real unhealthy, and then my business, the B&B's burned down. I won't go through it all. But it was just a cumulative weight. But what I was to do and be responsible to do was you replace bitterness not with forgiveness. I mean, forgiveness obviously is awesome, but you have to go to the heavenly place and see the promises, and you have to accept them, receive them again. The many that I'm not asking are looking at who that said the prophets missed it and all this. Well, they're bitter. They can be. I'm not saying that's, people need to be held in account, I'm going to share with us at close today just what I believe has happened in this last season. Because I received comfort and his goodness. Because it shifted, and I started asking with confidence, because without confidence, you can't please God or faith, what had happened. And according to his hopes in this last season, and that I would not let myself get an answer that was under the clouds. That was just more misery. It was negated the narrative of God, that God hadn't been great this last 100 years. God has been amazing as he advanced the world in hope. Now the world has come to a place where there's an attuning to the original design of human beings. But first, there's an attuning to where we've been able to develop each other. We're going from the David generation to the Solomon generation. David generation, my generation, we warred. And then that war, our children, many have got a wisdom that they don't want to war. And I got pretty self-focused in the warring, because you're just making sure it's all about you taking territory and leave it for the kids, and the kids want you to pay attention to them. And now, same time, they got to learn things out inside of God, or they get askew, and just how sensitive they get and how emotional they get to what, or all of us, that'll be as we move into the Hope Room. I'll share how to look at the future, how to look at the next generation, and I'll submit perspective, because Papa's was to do that. So you go into Exodus 15, and the water becomes sweet, and that is the ministry of reconciliation and restoration. It's the most powerful weapon in God's arsenal, is when you come to that sweet confidence, that comforting confidence in him. And I shared about, I wrestled a guy for 4 or 5 years, and I just would win. And, the last time I was with him, I pinned him, and there were 3 or 4 other buddies, and we just kind of, just had a little bit more, ability. And each time he'd meet me down in the locker room and just sour and bitter. And the last time he really wanted to fight me, and I, box, and I just was tender towards his pain, because I knew I had the victory, but he had pain, and he just wanted what I had, and so I recognize that. Now, we as believers, moving into the future, you see in the last few verses that there was water over the hill, 12 pools of water, 12 palm trees, and then we see the manna. And basically, God is saying, like he did in the storm, if you could just wait a second, over the hill, you're going to be cared for. And look, I just threw a horse and rider in the sea. When will you be secure? A little bit in the past, present, future. And the only way you'll be secure is if you get above the clouds, and a day doesn't become like 1,000 years, where you're tormented, and the treachery, and the betrayal, and bad circumstances don't get magnified. They're a moment compared to the years of his goodness and his nearness and his narrative, and what is of more value in what he's done in our life. And just in these places where we get a stubbed toe and he's healed of cancer, we're able to see with a hope and bring a confidence and a perspective. And so we're moving into this place of the Hope Room, and first is a hope unseen. But then we have greater promises of coming into the promised land, which happens, and then Abraham's nations and peoples will know him. And we are seeing the moving forth of the body of Christ, and we're going to see a second Jesus movement with wisdom. So I believe what happened, or what we're to do about life, and then the perspective that others in the media or social media or whatever might out there, is we must stay in that prison of hope. And if our hearts start to quake, then we've watched too much of the wrong thing. And we only have so much time in our life. children, be careful what you hear and ask the Lord permission. Some of you are political intercessors. Some of you are to be, that's not your diaconate and episcopate. And that doesn't mean that you don't have understanding, you don't vote as a citizen, right? Or even if you are in the political realm, it might not be you speak or look at Arizona, this one and that one, and you have to obey him. And you have to maintain your strength and your hope and your heavenly citizenship. There should be a number of us that haven't asked the Lord for anything for years, because we're not these beggars. And this hope prayer, it's time to walk into it. The prayer house has been built across the nations. I dreamed of it, but it's tilted. It needs more hope in it. And that's declaring, as I said, Martin Luther King, but others were the woman I met in Soweto that declared for South Africa a future. And Nelson Mandela visited that place first when he came out of prison. It was a woman that saw a future for them because she lived in that heavenly place. She's an alien and a stranger. And so she sees the pains and the perplexities, and it doesn't touch her because it's really a place where we have been anointed in our spirits and we've been given authority, and there are all going to be a whole different level of miracles, 78 new types of miracles that are coming forth, and we can't see it if we got our heads down and we're eating the mud of the day. And this is what's come after the body of Christ, and this is what's come after the people on the earth. Leviathan. And I shared this with somebody, and I got amazing notes on it, but they said, hey, your buddy Lance, Walnell has said something about that. So I'll ask him about that. But let me just share this with you. Leviathan is a creature of the Nile, it says, and it's one of the most oppressive. I mean, it really speaks of Job a great deal about it, and it's crocodile. And if you watch those movies, a crocodile will grab its prey, can move so quick and grab its prey, and then it takes you into a death spiral and spins, and all of a sudden you're in this mud and crud, and you're under the water. And so Leviathan has come when people have pains, like I saw in New Orleans when the floods came, that people fell off a cliff, and when they hit the ground, they either on the way down were divested, and all these things were taking them to hell in their hearts, like they're wrapped in their whiskey bottles, or wrapped in their gold, or chills, or wrapped in their pornography, and they were divested of it because the wind blew it off, because everybody went through the flood, or they hit the ground, held on to it, and they got up and raged. If you get bit by a crocodile, you're going to rage. Or you're going to turn to him and his promises that are greater, and the 78 new types of miracles that will loosen you from that alligator. But that alligator has bit some of our families, bit others, and we were placed as aliens in that family. Let me give you this perspective. That my children and others, I talked to a counselor because, one of the things I was telling about the past the last 5 years is I had a brain injury, a few of them during just accidents. But what it did, it hit me in the frontal lobe. And so I just executive functions. I just, organizing thoughts, I'll do a great job if I just got a few things and I can keep my head around it. And it's not like every function goes, but packing a bag or those things, it just, it's really difficult. And so organizing communications, not missing appointments, I just would always write in notebooks a bunch to keep myself remembering events, and I'd be in this fog, and I just thought I had too much going on. But I just saw my little brother, who was third in the world in karate, and got hit in the head. And Bob Jones told me, your little brother, you're going to meet him. And he's always been my love and my heart. And Jimmy got so angry when my dad was dying. He's awesome. He's awesome. And that's not the issue. It wasn't Jimmy, he just be mad, and then he wouldn't remember. And so your frontal lobe, you'll get impulsive, and you react. And so about 5 years ago, my heart went out and I had to have open heart surgery, and then my adrenals went out completely. And so I couldn't produce energy, and I'm still dealing with that. But also my brain, when you're young and you're strong, you have the ability to ward some things off, but I just didn't have the energy. And so they said that I had a visionary function that would really release the prophetic in a profound way. That would be a story for another day. I had a car wreck and went into a vision of the Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier fight, and it happened, but they found a tear in my brain, and everybody's had challenges, but it wasn't an excuse, it was an explanation, because I just say the priorities for my wife and family. I'll know it's their birthday, or because I write those things down, I get poems, and it'd just be such incredible pain when I'd forget about it or see their pain. And it was just, but I just was, I just crashed physically, and I had to have back surgeries. And so, I couldn't remember priorities of love and valuing, and I couldn't remember scheduling, and I couldn't remember, then stress would hit, and I just didn't have, like my dad always had this humor that was indomitable. And so I could be driven, but not mean, but I got mean. I had tweets that or not tweets, but texts and stuff, and I'd look at them the next day and say, what's happening? I had a lot of pressures from different areas, but that still wouldn't be what I'd do. So, but I just thought, Lord, now I'd had this physical thing, I'd had this mental thing. I just saying, how's this better? Put pressure on my family in a unique way. And there's other things. And business, I had to turn it over because I didn't have, I had 3 businesses, more than that just were going, and a lot of ministry. And it just was, I couldn't keep up. And I just have those dreams, which people have, about getting to school late and beyond that, the IRS not being happy. And so I was asking, now, how are you here in your love? And I'd love to go into it. Sometime I will just go into, he just spoke to me about even my family, my children had grown, and just said, I was done, physically and mentally. And he said, I wanted you to have a new operating system. As painful as this is, it's time for us to have a honeymoon, and I'm giving you a vacation. Oh, gosh, this is a vacation, but if I focused on it, it was so healing. And I said, I'm going to promote you, and I'm going to update you. And I said, I'm saving you from yourself. You were pushing the cart uphill with the vision in me. It took off downhill. That means it grew, and it ran off course. And the devil can't stop you from going up. He pushes you. And then he said, and you got social clutter. I love people and enjoy them, but I just would wake up knowing I disappointed people because I didn't keep appointments, phone calls. And he just said, you just got to simplify your life. And so, and that was really, because there was a depth in relationship that I couldn't get to by just running around you can be engaging with people, but not relational. And I'm built for a little deeper. And so that was a gift given back to me, relationship. But it suffered for a while because somebody was loved once by you, but they don't feel loved now. So I'd love to transition better than I did. But the third thing was like the business. It had really grown, was providing resources. I was doing good with those resources. And it looked like a lot of that was going to go away, and a lot was stolen, and houses burned down. And I didn't have I can't tell you today how it's been money in the bank, and then even to do good things. It's just been a miracle, because I kept up on the numbers and stuff, and I didn't during that time. But all of it was to bring me into a new operating system. He had always told me that after 50, That's going to be the most powerful time of your life. And I had a dream for years that I had all these notebooks, which represented, I started 11 businesses with others and the Lord, and et cetera, ministry. And I was trying to get in the basement. And the basement means your foundation. And he had something altogether different for me after 50. But I kept trying to bring all these notebooks through this half of a basement window, you know, how it has metal in the beginning. And I could only bring 3 notebooks in. And it was my history from the past, the wonderful enlightening stories of his goodness, appreciative memories and miracles. More important, and what I'm going to commission you to go out and do is ask him for those times that you saw royal design, your original design, and the original design of your life. That's what's to be redeemed out of every part, season of your life. Do not let Leviathan spin it into a terrible memory that torments you. You see the goodness of God, and you don't punish yourself. Mr. Squashbucket just tries to beat the life out of you. No, you receive his love, and you allow him to show you who you are and your essence. And you might have thought you lost every part of yourself, but I'm telling you, you didn't. You were here. There had to be a lot great about you to make it to this point. So you allow him to tell you about that. And then you let him bring you into your presence. So he showed me a lot of things in the past. And to build me up for even like the election, he showed me how he had moved us forward as body of Christ, which I would love to speak to, because it looks like it's being spun into this lying web about the body and about each other and all that. And it's just greater love's going to abound, and we're going to snap out of it. And then we're going to hate the enemy that duped us. And we're going to say, no, we have been moving forward. We even move forward, because in sometimes standing you succeed. But we've learned how to grow and not be reactive and walk into a new operating system. What we found, and I found, was any kind of clutter and not quickly being able to transition would cause me to still carry weights I wasn't supposed to carry. So he got me in that basement. And it's Isaiah 49. The servant of the Lord says, I was doing so much for you, and now I find myself in the dark alone. And he doesn't complain. After a while, he says, but I say my due is with you. You know, that means whatever. You know, I trust you. And he says, to that one, I'll give the Gentiles and the Jews. So there is a beautiful graduation. If you haven't run away, you're on this call, you have graduated. But he wants to take you to even a higher place than that. He wants to show you original design. You see it in the past, you see it in the present, you'll see it in the future. So he saw, my greatest desire is to be one that saw the original design of people and loved them with an appreciative love, value human beings. And, when I got the brain challenge and I was short with people. And my body hurt so bad, I just done. Don't want to talk to you. That kind of deal. And so the Lord brought me to many understandings through that, and how much I would need to lean on the grace of him, because it wasn't him, but these new weapons in him. And that's what we're going to be focusing on as we go forward. And the main one's a sweet stick, but it all empowers a sweet stick, a greater than love. That's filled with hope. That's mature love. So then he has you look at your future, which is this enemy, which is a man in purple. I had a dream the other night that once this crocodile's able to spin you in the mud enough, you open your eyes and you see mud. And you can't see anything but mud. And that means your future has now been clouded by the pains of past, present, your way you look at yourself. And it's return to original design, return to the stronghold of hope. You're prisoners of hope. Be a captive there. I can't see nothing but him and his hope for me. 5 types of hope. We'll get into it in this next month. This is going to be incredibly important, because the God of hope has not been understood for 6,000 years. But for the future is where you see in the most painful areas your greatest hope. Whether it's family, whether it's business friends or spiritual friends, you'll see your greatest hope, because the enemy has come with that alligator in that area, because he knows that's the area of your influence. And You might not walk into it the same way, have the same kind of responsibility, but you will have an inheritance there, and you do not let it be stolen like Esau, who just got bitter, mourned at his life, and gave it up for a bowl of soup. And you step into the future promises and decree original design. You don't have to be gung ho, all this. You just you got a confidence, and you got a smile of contentment. So future, I'm commissioning you in hope to look for a hope unseen, and have him do this miracle of seeing according to his perspective, original design. Let me give you a picture of the present time, Todd, for you, Felita, and you tell me how to pronounce that. Or birth, and I'm talking long. I got to get ready for this trip, and I know you guys have been patient here. I do have words and thoughts for each of you. It's just, I want to lay a foundation. So, and we do have the subscription that we ask people if they can to donate $50. We got a whole team. We pray for them. That's a lot of administrative work. We're going to simplify it to send you building words each month because it's been the administration when we try to get all the words, put them together from every month, and with that, 12 of us that are praying for each person. So we'll do a good job, but I'll probably do the sound file, send it, and keep the notes so we can keep building it when there's graduation points. So that if you want individual development of us hearing the Lord for you in a particular way, I want to do that. I want to honor people on this that come up, and some I can't see, because if I prophesy to you here, I believe in that, but I don't want anybody that doesn't want to be prophesied to for me to do that. It's your life, and that's, and I'm just going to ask Jacqueline, some of the others on the social media, just follow up with people in the messenger and just say, Sonia, different ones, really important to say, hey, here's where we're going. Here's how to partner. But here, do you mind if, ones of us prophesy? We'd never say like, you want to kill somebody. We're not going to get into anything negative in this situation. So, comfort for the future. Sit on the porch swing and ask him. So, when the election started to, there's only certain things I can say here. So let me say this, that I reviewed the visit I had in the year 2000, ongoing one about the next 5 presidents, and I reviewed more specifically the 2020 election, and talked about John, but not John the son of thunder, but John the beloved was to win the election. So, but back in the year 2000, right after that, I was told, but you wait till January 20th, and then you ask me again, and ask me with confidence and hope. So I knew to stand with the confidence till January 20th, and then ask again him, and not get into any of the battles. He said Scud missiles will be going off. This is the year 2000. And so the men around me that have gone on this journey, and I shared it beforehand. So I wouldn't be saying it after the fact. It just was not prudent to do some sharing here. So, and he said the sweet stick would come out of it. There'd be bitter waters and a sweet stack, and he just talked about that being reconciliatory love. And then he said the seeing and the proclaiming of original design from 2020 to 2030. And so, very important. So, about the election where there needs to be healing and understanding, he said, now we know that Donald J, the J is John, and so not John the son of thunder, because that would, and it was even back in 2000 that there was a cleaning of the swamp with alligators that bite and spin, with your communication, the malice, the slander, and I'm not saying any part, it was in the air generally. And it just behooves me not to identify anybody on this broadcast. So And I believe that we were to shift from that David win battles with certain tools and weapons in the Lord to the Jedediah generation. And like my son was a man of peace that built peace with enemies, and I started to learn from him and not just go to war. And like I said, with my brain thing, I went to war more, and I had to fight to move down at 15 just to live. And so, but after 50, he told me I would reflect his grace different. It was a different season of who he was going to show himself, and that there was different tools. So there was a higher level of singing and prophetic, and I would graduate. And so I'd be able to declare cities and nations according to how he sees them. And that'll change a city or a nation. So said, but if we were in that thundering stage and we wanted fire to come down like on the Samaritans, that's what happened. Luke 9, they try to walk across Samaria, and go into ways Lazarus from the dead, and they won't let him walk through the land. He's got to walk through Judea, where they tried to stone him. And so James and John say, these are half-breeds, religious and political, everything. And they said, call down fire. They just don't need to be on the planet. And Jesus said, you don't know what spirit you're of. And that doesn't mean that he wasn't going to use them, that they weren't wonderful to him. But he said, you're just stirring up. It says reprove fool, or somebody just doesn't, and you're just going to have them hate and veracity. That does not mean that you don't stand. We'll get greater understanding about that, and in wisdom how you do that and how you pick the battles with the Lord. And so we had to become John the Beloved. And John the Beloved, goes from that place where Jesus said after Luke 9, Luke 10, he uses the story of the Good Samaritan. So he doesn't call fire down on them. He uses them an example of the original design, that there'll be the good-hearted people that will care for other peoples in other kindred tribes, tongues, and those that are abusing them. And so we know in John 4 how a city got saved in Samaria, in a region, or not a region, but a city. And then we know in the book of Acts, the whole region of Samaria got saved 70 years later. So this worked on them. This man was kind to them. And he even used them as an example throughout the ages of kind persons, the Samaritans. And that was a sweet stick at work. And sometimes love takes a long ways around. It took 70 years. But we have to be able to not be short-term thinkers and battle fire with fire. We just devils have quick, intense power, but you just wear them out with your patient love and maturity. So I believe that there are some prophecies that are just we have to agree with, and we have to get on our knees, and we have to ask for the influence of God, and there's some free will involved in it. And so I believe for all of us that there was be much more of this posturing of John the Beloved, because you're in strength. Because when John was the Beloved, they come out to Patmos, and there's division between the church. And if you knew what each side was doing, you want fire to call them out down on a few of the groups. But he listened to them, and he said, brethren, he's 85, 88, and he says, brethren, love one another. And he said 3 times, solved it. And so it really had that resounding reality to it. So what I had happen in the natural, and I'd seen, was, a number of months before the election, there was the changing of the Supreme Court, and I had, gotten to know people that were related to White House people, and I just had 2 years before that, when the Supreme Court Justice, whose last name Kavanaugh, said there'll be a one that comes and be a little woman that's young, not old, and she lives in a shoe, and she has so many children, she knows what to do. And I said, it will look like she flips at first, but then she'll be really good. And I said, there's another one that might be invited that will, flip period. And so just I want to give you hope and understanding. So, and it actually was communicated, probably 10 hours before we knew that Ruth Ginsburg had gone on. And so, and it was communicated in the places where it was important. And so there was a little woman who has so many children. She knows what to do. And her name was Amy, I said. And so that was able to get into the places that were important and people. And at that time in my life, I'm just not trying to broadcast anything. I'm just trying to, this is my little area understanding, and I just lived it. And so the others have others. And so then there were a couple other things that happened. And then, I was in communication with the Pences, and just want to say that I said, it'd be an Esther time coming up, and you were birthed for such a time as this. And I said, and the whole, all the time was, speaking to his family, about his family, his parents, and about he had come from a place of Wonder Bread, and it was really some beautiful things. And then he was from Indianapolis or Indiana, and so there was enough to the story that the story's not over. And so I said, but, I said, you'll have your authority challenged because you're a reverent, respectful man. And so you'll never step outside of what you feel like your boundaries of authority are. And I said, but your authority is what you believe it is, because you can be trusted on some levels. And so, of course, he didn't think it was his authority. And so we know that he didn't take it. But, I was able to communicate to some people that this might happen, but it won't be over. And I said, it just, people will go and evaluate and reevaluate, and we don't want to throw them under buses. We just, want everybody to be redeemed, restored, and strengthened. And, he was very confident that wasn't. He couldn't shipwreck the whole world by, intervening wrongly. But, so there is a healing of relationships that will come. And there's a John, not the son of thunder, but John the beloved that we're to pray for. But we're also to first go there ourselves. And malice, slander, it needs to stop. And fighting fire with fire. And the God will give you higher expressions because you're more confident than having to take on. There's two enemies. And the one is anything you say will be twisted and used against you, except the sweet stick. There will be authority and joy even as you go home for Easter in that. And so, I'm going to see my children, which I love. And I just found a conference that my little girl, Amy Ann, led. Now she's a young, noble lady. And just, she's experienced some good things and others. And they're, she's really wise. And so I come to listen. And that'll be surprising, I think, for her on them. And my son who's getting his PhD and having his own questions. I'm not challenged by those things. I really see operating in the sweet stick with wisdom and bringing appreciative memories. And sometimes I'll just look out, my dad would, to a far place and come back and say, Bobby, you're going to be a great man. When I said, interesting things. And so do not let your hearts be offended, because God wants to speak you prophetically, and you ask him again about the promises and the promises for the future. And if you're over 50, this is your most powerful time yet, ever in your whole life, because you'll build on your knees more than what you could ever imagine, because you're going to go to the heaven place, and then you're going to be transported to wherever you want to go to pray, or wherever he shows you from a heavenly place to go. You lay hands on people in rooms. It's going to be real. You'll be Philip. It'll be translated. These things are going to be commonplace. Angels are going to show up. to come with you, another authority that will come from you. I'm just identifying my angels on a greater level over this last season. There's other helps the Lord has, from the host of witnesses to these. 2019, I saw the mushroom cloud come over the earth, but I saw Jesus come out of it with a platter of greater to us. So enough. It's been quite a while. So just if that clarifies anything about the election, I do believe there's things that there's authority to clean up, and then I believe that there's still people. I can't tell you about something that's just awesome, with somebody you probably know, and that's had a dream about somebody I talked to them about who, you just think some people in politics or either side or this or that are reprobate, and God can easily touch them and remind them, if they're in their 80s or 70s, 60s, that what they were like at 6. He is going to melt the hardest of hearts. You get to the heavenly place. That's a place where I see hardest hearts melted easily. That's a place where I see all kinds of power in him. That's a place where I see people in their original design. So part one. That's excellent, Hilmar. Don't try and catch it with a crock with a fishing hook. So understand that some of your hope, some mud got over it, and I've seen it, but you're able to shake it off. Understand that you're the ones that are going to lead. And so there's a place you feel like, oh, am I going to lead? It might not be in the same way. It might be better. Like I was a very, indomitable hope. I'm listening to some of my past prayer who I was proclaiming with authority. Well, now I'm listening and I'm speaking with a different authority and confidence, but also I'm listening a lot more. And then I have a few words that count. So I was with that Lance Wall. Now I just finished this, and I wasn't doing that well health-wise. And there's a verse in Isaiah 28 that says, if you keep hair on the ground, plowing it, and if you've raised any kind of crop, which I have with others, that's large, it says let the ground rest. That means if you plant seeds and you just keep the ground, and that's what's happening. Farrow in the ground, it makes it hard and makes all the nutrients out of it. So I showed about hope and hope centers and hope reformation, how 1,000 places would rename themselves hope, and they happened. Well, then I went beyond that, but I had to let it go, where I was the plowman. And I was in Bethel, and I was just sitting by Bill, and Lance came out of the back room. I think it's Lance, but he was in there. So I came back, and Benny and Chris and others were there. And there was a woman, she was speaking of building a kibbutz hope center. Well, this was uniquely what I saw when I lived in Israel. I lived on, and I had shared about it and how they would come forth, and even, the leadership of Israel would stand behind it. This woman was Prime Minister's best friend. They celebrated Christmas together, and she's talking about Kibbutz Hope Center. And I'm kind of out of it, and I'm thinking my seed, and I don't got anything, And all of a sudden I start to listen more, and it's just exactly what I'm given as a blueprint for building the Kibbutz Hope Center from the Lord. And she had already started 3, and she was there with Jeff Sessions' sister, and she said, guy had a unique voice. They asked him something about the guy, and so I said, wow, that's really awesome. And she looked at me, pointed, but that's all I really said. Let's get out the room, because his point was, hardly you're sowing seed and you can't keep Pharaoh on the ground. Just let it rest and let others take it, because it's resounding across the earth. And so the worst thing in the world would have been I kept plowing. And because she had her fresh ideas about it, and I was listening, I thought those are better than mine. But if I would have known, I would have jumped right in and said, no, you got to do it this way or that way, that kind of attitude. So I see, just full circle on some of the, like Robert, this is going to be your important time. And Blake, you too. And it's going to be this reality of seeing your own original design first and seeing your own original design working in your purpose and him redeeming and you having favor in situations where you thought, favor left or leader, no, closed doors will open. And because it's for timing. And so God wants to give you a lot of understanding because you took some things personal that you weren't. And you lost that hope perspective even about yourself. And that's the last place to lose. It's the first place we give it up. So Todd, you're going to go hunting for another Todd that hunts. And he's in the vineyard. He has been. I don't know if he is now, but I got a feeling that this is to be the vineyard, is to be the Jesus movement that with wisdom and with the power and the wisdom of the power. And they're getting hit in their perspective. And so crocodiles try to get them, some of them, not all of them. And so that's enough for tonight. Jacqueline is responsible to summarize this. A few others, Michael Wong, and make sure that everybody understands by posting a review and the main points so we can have it build and say, this is what Bob tried to say, but he just talked for a long time and it was hamburger helper. But I'm telling you, there are jewels in there. Dig and connect it. My job is to throw the paint up there. The mosaic, your job is to flip the mosaic over and say, oh man, this, if you quilt, you put the threads together. Okay, love you. Comforting for past, present, future. Talked about the election for a present and maybe some ways to see it. And I talked about the past, not enough to say how we've advanced and led into this time and how it's been a horse and rider thrown into the sea. We have advanced so much, like slavery. For 6,000 years, it was expected in nations, and now it's outlawed in every nation of the earth. And that doesn't mean the rudiment's not happening. It's horrible sex slave trade, but some of these things aren't they're not widespread, but they are glaring. I mean, percentage of the population, but they're horrible and they're glaring. And so they'll get exposed. Now they're being exposed quickly, which we don't want to get wound up and think this is everybody everywhere. It gives us the ability to understand how to, in wisdom, take it over. Absolutely getting the cord pulled back on this stuff. So love you. I got to go to bed. Okay. So pass this on to everybody. Okay. Share it. Say, and if anybody knows how to edit, I want to edit sometimes here so that we can, just capture some of the salient points. So Joe Rogan, I've talked to, through my little brother, and he just said, Hartley, you got to share a long timer with the guest, but then somebody that edits the